So I bought a house in Puerto Rico. It took me about 2 years or so. So I started looking at the end of December 2023 when I got here from, well, I started looking September 2023 is when I got here from San Diego. And then I bought a house last year, June 2025. Yeah. So I will tell you a little bit about my experience. So first off, I had found houses over and over again. You find them, but then there's always something, right? So for starters, the December of the year that I got here, I almost closed on a house. We went through the entire process, which was, in case you don't know, there is a very long process when buying a house. It's not just, hey, I want this house, approved, done. You would think so. So you say, hey, I like this house. How much is it? The seller wants this. I said, sure, I'll meet you at your price. So this house was $285,000 in Aguadilla, which now looking back, I'm glad I didn't buy the house in that neighborhood. It's not a good neighborhood. I wasn't privy to that information because I had just gotten here. It was close to the beach, but it was also close to a river. So we'll get to that point. But so it was $285. I was like, I want it. I said, I gave what the seller wanted, $285. Start your loan application with all the things that you need, which is a long list of items. And so went through that process, started the process. Once you start the process, the bank is working, the bank is submitting documents. Do you qualify? Have you been pre-approved? I was pre-approved at that time. I was pre-approved for way more than the house was worth, so I was fine on my end. Keep going, whatever. So then you're doing title searches, making sure the house has a title. You're taking a look at what the house is going to need to close, and that is where the appraisal and inspection comes in. So the appraisal is what the house is valued at as per the market. So that's where I got stuck in my transaction that time, and that was because the seller wanted 295, I forget, and the house appraised for 190 something. So nearly, well, yeah, $100,000 under what the house was appraised for. So we tried to negotiate. He wouldn't budge. He wanted me to negotiate. Well, the house didn't have a kitchen, so he wanted to negotiate putting in a kitchen, doing all that stuff. And there was a door that was missing in the back of the house. It was just a gate. And so I feel like this was a commercial space before, so it wasn't residential. I liked the house, it had really high ceilings, and honestly, I think I would have made a very nice house out of that place. But fast forward, case fell through because the owner would not budge on the price. So I wasted over $3,000 to $4,000 in processing fees. So didn't get that house. Looking back, I'm glad. So one, reasons that I was glad I didn't get that house. It was near a river. So it was in a flood zone. A very heavy flood zone, meaning there are many flood zones, many places and many houses in Puerto Rico are going to be flood zones, but this one was in the mouth of a river. Looking back, I was naive. Real estate agents aren't going to tell you these things. They want to sell the house. And then I had passed by that the house had so many fruit trees in the back. I was just excited, you know. I get excited very easily. And so what I will tell you is that you need to do your own research. Any place you buy, do your own research. Acknowledge that if you're buying a house that was renovated, that has had work done, any kind of whatever, you might run into issues and like have money for maintenance, have money for anything that might come up, because if you don't, you're gonna have a bad time. Like, that's just facts. And so that house, I'm glad that I didn't get it, because not only was the neighborhood not great, because apparently there was criminal activity in the area that obviously I don't know about because I'm not from there. So it was near like a gas station, like the locale was not nice. So then now I fast forward to when I stopped looking for a house, because this is what I ran into. So this is like the in-between story. I would go on clasificadosonline.com. If you're interested in buying a house in Puerto Rico, that is like the place people post their houses. There's Keller Williams, there's all sorts of different real estate agents in the island, independent brokerages, and so on and so forth. So you have to pick someone that you're going to be able to work with. Some agents will make you sign a contract so you exclusively work with them, and that's up to you. I never did that. That got me into like weird situations where agents were like, oh, I showed you this many houses, like getting attitude with me. None of the agents I worked with were being helpful, because I had a VA home loan and people just don't want to deal with the VA home loan. That's a Veterans Affairs home loan. I was trying to get a Veterans home loan transaction because it's 0 down. I put money down on my house just for to have money in escrow and just show that I was interested and that I was serious. But it's not required. With a VA home loan, you are not required to put down a deposit, and that is awesome. And not only that, but if you have a disability, there are certain, like the funding fee gets waived, so it's a couple $1,000s. And if you have 100% disability, you don't pay closing costs on the transaction. So there are a lot of things that get tied to the VA home loan that no matter what an agent tells you, to pass it up, to use an FHA, to use a different type of a traditional loan, whatever it is, don't fall for that, because the VA is always going to be more strict when it comes to inspections, checking things. So that's one thing that they don't like here, is the inspection process with the VA home loan is more strict, 1. 2, there's only a few inspectors on the entire island, which is not a big island, so it's whatever, on the entire island to come inspect your house. So it's very limited. It might take longer, so the transaction might stretch out a little bit. My house that I bought, it took a little over a month, so 30 something days to close from the day I found it to the day we closed with a VA home loan process. And there were some hiccups behind the scenes that the agent told me about later on, but that was because it was a VA inspector and they go deep, deep, deep. And so I think it's a little safer than just relying on a regular inspector. I had my house inspected before the VA home loan guy came to point out any watch outs that the VA home loan inspector would find. So before we got to that point in the transaction, we could rectify them and bring them to the attention of the owner, so that way we would be more able to negotiate with more of a background. Because my experience before was we got to the point where nobody wanted to budge. There was no way out. I lost $4,000 in processing fees with the bank and like whatever, because there are forms you have to submit, there are title searches you have to pay for before closing, and then there's some costs that come up front, and then there's some things that are more closing costs. So, and then for this house, I paid, what was it, $25,000 over the asking price, and then this house sold for more than it's actually valued for in the market as well. So sellers here are trying to get their most bang for their buck or whatever. This house was flipped essentially. I've learned from the neighbors that this house was flipped. It was in shambles. They fixed it and they sold it. So the guy never lived here. He made up some story about that he was gonna buy this house for his daughter. Pretty sure that wasn't true. But point is, you just need to do your research. Oh, so I went to pay my taxes or see what I would owe, which I'm not. So there's a lot of little things. So there's CRIM here, and then there's your regular property taxes. Because this is my primary residence, and the value or whatever subtracted from what it's actually worth and what I'm generating, like, so I don't pay anything this year. And then as a veteran, I definitely don't pay anything. So I have a VA home loan, and so I went to check that I had my veteran status in my application, and I didn't even have my name registered to my property, so it still had the old owner information when I went to the office. So the gentleman there was so nice. He helped me like walk through the process of properly changing everything. The attorney that did my work did do all the due diligence of submitting the paperwork, whatever, because I had a copy of it, but it wasn't processed. And I bought the house last June, and I went to the office a couple weeks ago. So Puerto Rico is interesting when it comes to these things. So don't be surprised if someone says they filed something and it doesn't get fully processed, or you bought a house and you go in the system and it doesn't say it's your house still. That could take a long time. It's very disorganized. So I would say check your work, double check other people's work, and then check your work again. And that's the only thing I can say. I did find the house in a beautiful area in Isabela. I have ocean views from my kitchen, which is mind-blowing to me. I did not think within the price range that I wanted to stay in that I was going to be able to have that. And so I'm very happy with my home. It is a house that was, like I said, flipped. So I'm like very alert and like keeping an eye on little things that I think might be problems, which I don't see any so far. The roof has been sealed. That's a big thing in Puerto Rico. You want to make sure that your roof is sealed so you don't have like water damage. This house is fully concrete, so we'll see how it holds up. But again, it's something like I'm ready. You know, you always expect the worst, but hope for the best. And so this has been amazing. I have a yard, so there's just little things that I want to do to the place. Been making it my own little by little, and it's a journey. I bought the house and they had to install a heater. The VA required it. So I found out that the heater that they installed was for a trailer. So it's like a very small, weird little heater. So I just bought a solar heater. I had to get that installed because I was not getting hot water and I was fine without the hot water for a while. I had not tried to use the heater until recently when my family came for the holidays, and that's when I noticed, hey, the heater's not heating up the water. It would only heat it up for like a minute or two, and then it would just get cold. Not cold, but like lukewarm. And so now that it's been colder in Puerto Rico, I was like, I need a heater for my water. So my client recommended a solar heater because she has that. And she's the agent, one of the two agents that sold me the house. And so I got that, and it's been great, except today it's cloudy. So with the solar heater, it doesn't get as hot as when like the sun is blasting it. The sun blasts that thing, the water comes out super hot. It's crazy. And so yeah, I've just been doing little things here and there. There's just like weird bubbling that happens in the walls when you paint. There's humidity here is crazy. So I'm learning about those things because I think you have to like prime the wall before you paint it and all this nonsense. And it's crazy. But it's been great. Like, I'm just happy. I have my house now, and I just wanted to share this because Puerto Rico, I wanted to share more about the in-between actually. So when I was calling to the real estate agents, a lot of the houses would be like, oh, there's 20 people ahead of you, there's a waiting list, it's no longer available, it's cash only, we don't accept VA home loan, it doesn't qualify. Many houses will not qualify for any financing, and that's why it's cash only. It's not because the owner's like, I want cash. It's because, one, if you have cash, you're gonna win most transactions, most deals. It's a quicker process. There's no hurdles to jump through. You don't require, and it's not required to appraise the house, inspect the house, which are the more time-consuming parts of the process. And so it's just straight cash, very easy transaction. I've never been part of one, but I've heard. And so the financing is a little more time-consuming. So obviously, it's not preferred. VA home loan adds a layer of complexity, so that's where I would not get callbacks, and I would ask right off the bat so that I wouldn't waste my time or their time. So it reduced my chances of finding a house to like this. So that's why when I inspected the house with my own money, because I paid up front for the inspection for a house that I might not even buy, I paid the inspector to come take a look at it and let me know if there were any big red flags that would not allow me to buy this house with a VA home loan. And in the past, I had been in conversations with real estate agents who were hounding me to switch to a different loan. Why? Why would they want me to switch to a different loan? So there are FHA loans, there are traditional loans, and these loans, these agents can get their own inspectors, their own appraisers to make sure the transaction goes smoothly, right? And that's great and all for the seller and the buyer. Your buyer gets their home, the seller sells their house. Fine. And the real estate agent gets paid. But for the buyer, let's say it's a very loose inspection and appraisal, they appraise it high as much as they want, it's not very regulated. You might pay over the appraisal price, so the house is not worth exactly what you thought it was or what they tell you it was. And so that's its own thing. Granted, you get the financing, so you pay for that house. But like, what if the bank wants more money? Because you gotta imagine, banks also make money off of this transaction. They're getting interest on a certain amount for a house. And so that's where things can get a little shady. And so where I think the VA home loan protected me is when it was strict, and that's why a lot of people didn't want to deal with it. So like I said, every aspect of any transaction, especially with this stuff, check your work, check their work, do your research on every part of the process. If you're financing, if you have cash, check that house well, get a good inspector, get your own inspector. Don't use the real estate agent's inspector. I don't care how nice they seem. And get that done, because it's hard. It's hard to trust people. It's hard to trust people, and then with such a large purchase, and especially me, I was like, it's little old me. Like, I don't have my parents helping me. I don't have anyone helping me. It's my hard-earned money, savings that, yeah. So that's it. That's my experience buying a house. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you bought a house here, what your experience was like. I actually had a decent experience. I've heard horror stories. So one fun fact that I learned about, and I'll close with this. There is something that I heard, someone at a store told me, that you can buy a property but not own the land in Rincon, Puerto Rico. So make sure your deed has your land included when you buy a house. Check your work, double, triple. Like, there was a mistake on the deed that was given to me. It said I lived somewhere that I didn't. It has some information there flipped. I pointed it out, and it was in Spanish, and they're supposed to translate it. I don't think they have to translate the deed. I don't know. The point is, check your work, check their work, check everybody's work. And then after you're done, also check the work that was processed, because I just found out about me not being Yeah. Puerto Rico.